Welcome everyone. Today we'll read a verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 13, third canto. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Pumsamato vivida karma bhiravayadyer. Danena kograta pasa paricharya yacha. Haradhanam bhagavatastava satkriyartho. Dharmorpita karichinmrityatena yatra. Translation. O Lord, all types of actions, whether they are Vedic sacrifices that are elaborated, charity, austerity, observance of these spiritual disciplines, they become significant and worthy of interest when they are given to your lotus feet with the goal to satisfy you. These devotional accomplishments are the highest zenith of all accomplishments. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, for the one who is unable to perform devotional service that is free from all material desires, it is advised that he accomplish a type of devotional service that is mixed and offer to the Lord Vedic rites and secular actions. This worship crowns gradually a person with success. This is taught by Shri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 9.27. When devotion becomes more predominant, Karma Mishra Bhakti, then a person offers all the Vedic rites and all its acts of light, opposite to the action when devotion is secondary, Bhakti Mishra Karma, where only the Vedic rites are offered and not ordinary activities. The one who performs pure devotional service offers all the activities of life and engages himself in the pure limbs of devotional service, such as hearing and chanting of the names and the glories of the Lord. A pure devotee does not perform Vedic rites in order to attain the heavenly planets in his next life. He is free from all material desires and aspires only for the only satisfaction of Shri Krishna. Also, the worship of the Lord offers eternal fruits and gives one to become his eternal associate. Whereas the religious duties, from which the principal object is the realization of material desires, they give only temporary fruits.
Namam Vishnu Padayam Krishna Prestaya Putale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Sarasvati Devi Kauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Sanyavadi Prachacha Dishatarinam Amshakalpa Talubhyacha Kripa Sindhu Vyahevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
C'est un verset qui est important.
It is a verse that is important because it speaks about progression in the consciousness.
Lorsque
When
on est
we are
très recouvert par la matière,
really covered by
il y a
matter
une forte concupiscence.
and we have a strong lust,
Alors notre but,
then our goal
il est pour
it
des
is
choses externes,
for external things,
comme
such
le but
as
de se marier,
the goal of getting married, having children,
de l'argent,
pleasure, money,
ou la libération des souffrances.
or liberation from suffering.
C'est un but.
It is a goal.
Donc lorsqu'on
So
entend
when we hear
sur des buts plus élevés,
about higher goals,
on entend que
where
ces
we
désirs
hear that these desires
quelque part impurs,
are somehow impure,
alors on est dérangé.
then we're disturbed
Et ça nous attire.
and it does not attract us.
C'est quelque chose que c'est normal.
It is something that is normal,
Mais
but
la différence avec le service de
the
dévotion,
difference with devotional
on les
service
voit comme le karma,
and paths like karma,
qui sont dirigés
which are
simplement
directed
sur l'atteinte
simply
du désir,
on the attainment of the desire,
c'est que dans le service de
it is
dévotion,
that in devotional
les désirs
service,
sont engagés.
the desires are engaged and purified.
Ah, karma, c'est karma, chaque mot d'arrive. En fait, dans le Bhagavatam, c'est
In fact, in the Bhagavatam, it is explained
que qu'on soit
that
plein de
whether we are
désirs
full of
ou sans
desires
désir,
or without
on va
desires,
s'engager dans le service.
we must engage ourselves in devotional
Et
service.
c'est ça la différence.
And this is the difference.
La Bhakti Mishra
Bhakti
Karma,
Mishra Karma,
c'est qu'on adore le
it
Seigneur
is that we
pour
worship the Lord for a material
Ça
goal.
s'arrête là.
It stops there.
Mais quand on accomplit le Karma Mishra,
But when we perform Karma Mishra Bhakti, we have desires,
mais notre but c'est Krishna,
but our goal is Krishna.
normalement ces désirs sont purifiés.
At one point, these desires are purified.
Parce que quand on les goûte,
Because when we taste
on
them,
comprend que
we understand
c'est
that
pas le but de
it is not the
l'existence,
goal
c'est d'être abandonné.
of life and they must be abandoned.
C'est comme une illusion.
It is just like an illusion that goes away.
Alors que lorsqu'on
Whereas
est
when
sur
we
la voie du karma,
are situated in the path of karma, it's like
lorsqu'on obtient
when we obtain
ce but,
this
on
goal,
pense
we
que
think
c'est le but de l'existence.
it is the goal of life.
On a
And
complètement
we have
accompli
completely
tout le devoir
performed all the duties
offrir au Seigneur Suprême.
that we must perform to
Alors,
offer to the
on
Supreme
comprend
Lord.
rien de son nom.
Whereas we don't understand anything about His name, His form, His qualities, and His
On
pastimes.
pense que
We think
à travers
that
la vie de famille,
through family
on a
life,
accompli
we have
tout
performed
notre devoir.
all of our duties, and it is the
À ce
highest.
niveau, on comprend
At
rien
this
de
level,
son
we don't
nom.
understand anything
Rien
about
de la vie de
reality.
Seigneur.
Anything about the reality of the Lord. The Lord is
Il est
very
comme
far
celui
away.
qui faut,
He's like the one
ou qui enlève la
who
souffrance.
gives and or the one who takes away the suffering. There's no relationship.
Il n'y a pas de rasa.
There's no rasa.
Lorsqu'on devient un
When
peu
we
plus
become
qualifié
a little bit more qualified
et qu'on comprend
and we
que
understand
cette situation
that this situation is useless,
alors naturellement,
then naturally
on va accepter
we will
une
accept
voie
a
qu'on
path
appelle
that we called
Mishra Gyan,
Bhakti Mishra Gyan,
où on va comprendre
where we will understand
que nourrir des
that
désirs matériels, c'est une
feeding material desires is an illusion,
puisqu'on est différent
since we are different from the body,
et qu'on devra tout
and we will need to abandon everything with death.
femme,
L-
enfant,
lady,
argent,
woman,
situation.
children, money, situation,
Ça, c'est
everything.
le Gyan.
This is
Le
Gyan.
Gyan vient,
When the Gyan
on
comes,
comprend ça.
we understand
Le
this.
karma est là.
When karma is
La
there,
voie du karma, on pense
path of
même
karma,
que
we
quand
think
on va
even
mourir,
that when we
on
will
va
die,
tous- on va retrouver toute
we
notre
will find all of our
même
family,
notre
even
chien,
our dog,
notre
in eternity,
grand-mère.
our grandma.
Mais au niveau du Gyan,
But at the level of Gyan, we realize all this is an illusion.
on réalise la
We realize the nature of the soul. The soul has nothing to do with the situation.
Mais on peut pas
But we
comprendre
cannot understand
sa situation originale.
the original situation of the soul with Radha and Krishna.
On pense qu'elle est
We
d'une
think
nature
that
impersonnelle.
the soul is that he is of an impersonal
Et on
nature,
comprend que tous les
and we
désirs
understand
matériels
that all material
amènent à la
desires
souffrance.
bring to suffering.
Donc on veut
So,
se libérer
We want to emancipate
de cette conception
ourselves
matérielle.
from all material conceptions, by rejecting all material conceptions of attachments.
Donc ça, c'est
So this is
notre but.
our goal.
Donc Bhakti Vishvagyan,
So Bhakti
c'est
Mishra-Gyan
se fondre dans le Brahman.
is to merge into
Mais
Brahman.
il n'y a pas
But
de
there's no
véritable
true
compréhension de la dévotion.
understanding of devotion.
Quand ça commence,
When does it start?
hein, Kanishta Bhakta.
Kanishta Bhakta.
Kanishta Bhakta,
Kanishta Bhakta,
bien qu'on soit plein de
although we
désirs,
are full of desires,
bien plein de concupiscence,
full of lust,
d'envie,
envy
hein, envers les uns, les autres,
towards one and the others,
dû à nos activités
due to
passées,
our previous
on
activities,
peut comprendre que le
we can
Seigneur
understand that the Lord is a person.
On peut comprendre
We can understand that He has pure devotees.
et que notre but,
And our goal
c'est d'atteindre Christ.
is to attain Krishna.
Et là, à ce moment-là,
And then at this point, at this moment, the Guru, the spiritual master, according to the qualification of the disciple, he engages his tendencies or her, because the disciple cannot do any other way. He doesn't have more within himself or herself. So he comes, due to his previous security, he accepts Krishna as the Supreme Lord, but he wants a woman, wealth, this and that, and that has nothing to do with his eternal reality. But at this level, it's not a problem, because the Guru will engage one's tendencies. One will be able to obtain if he wants.
Puisqu'il va servir Guru et Krishna,
But since he will be what he wants, but since he will be serving Radha and Krishna, Guru and Krishna, gradually his desires will dissipate. We take the example of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted to have a kingdom that was even bigger than Brahma, his grandfather. But still, when he met Narada Muni, he gave him a sadhana, a spiritual practice. And gradually, when he performed this practice, he tasted a higher taste in his practice. He forgot his desires and he realized Krishna. And when Lord Vishnu appeared and he wanted to fulfill his desires, he was ashamed because he remembered. The Lord comes to fulfill my desires, but I don't need this anymore. I don't have these desires. You understand the progression? But in the same way, at the beginning in devotional service, we have a taste. Everyone doesn't have the same taste. And this is what is important to understand the highest devotees. They close their eyes and they meditate on the sweet, intimate leelas of Radha and Krishna. They want rasa. But the beginner devotee, he has no contact with rasa. And even when there is rasa, he is not attracted. He can even become angry when one hears the sweet exchanges, in fact, that exist between Radha and Krishna from the mouth of a devotee. Someone can even become angry. Why? Because since one has lust within oneself, when one hears about the pure exchanges of love, then it makes one's lust come out. And then one feels that one is not in one's proper element. And this is normal. So at that level, what happens in Vaidhi Bhakti is that through the order of the Guru, to distribute books, to preach, philosophy, like of a basic philosophy from Bhagavad Gita, for example, one finds taste to escape all these attractions within oneself, all these disturbances. One will worship the deity, make fire sacrifices, sing, but it doesn't give rasa yet. But one has taste. Before, one was a materialist. On this plane, one finds taste, a little taste with Krishna, and more taste in lust, more taste in the search for pleasure of the senses. But one starts gradually to find pleasure by serving Guru and Krishna. But one is not liberated from the fact of taking one portion for oneself, because one is looking for position,
le fait d'être accepté,
the fact of being accepted,
de ne pas être critiqué.
of not being criticized.
Donc,
So,
une bhakti mixte
it is a mixed bhakti,
où il trouve
where one finds pleasure,
et en même temps, il
and at
peut
the same time one cannot abandon everything.
mais c'est au contact de purs dévots.
But it is through the contact with pure devotees that the neophyte can evolve.
S'il perd cette association,
If one loses his association,
à ce niveau de
one stays at that level of a little taste, in fact, of engaging on one's own in the
il
activities
a du goût.
where one has taste.
Or, l'association
However,
avec des racines
the association with Rasika Bhaktas, it will make it that happen that gradually
il va pouvoir
one will be able to develop more taste,
mais
but
également avoir
also
une attraction pour
have
le goût lila.
an attraction for the sweet leelas of Braj.
À ce moment-là,
At that time,
quand le goût devient
when taste becomes really strong
et qu'il devient
and one becomes intoxicated
des extases
with
spirituelles,
spiritual ecstasies,
hein, alors
then
il commence à devenir
one starts to become like a bee
et être complètement
and
chercher
be-
grâce.
be completely in search for rasa.
C'est à ce moment-là
It is at that time that the devotee lets go of an inferior association,
qui est juste
which is just
à
based
travers des dévots
through
néophytes,
neophyte devotees who simply can stay devotees by engaging themselves in devotional service, and one will search for an association that will give one the best of the nectar of Braj. At that point, one passes on the Madhyamadikari platform, Ruchi. But before, one cannot make the distinctions. It's really difficult because the impurity does not allow one to taste. But when, in fact, one associates with a good mood, with a good consciousness, and one loses its independence of wanting to do whatever one wants, and one becomes caught by taste. That means he loses his independence because he becomes caught, captivated. At that time, one cannot leave the shelter, in fact, of the Rasika Bhaktas, because one does not find taste anywhere else. Because we cannot obtain this taste through neophyte devotees. It is not possible. That is why, according to our qualification, we take a particular shelter and we are in a particular place. So, of course, in a place you can have all kinds of devotees. There can be a kind of also mercy that is mysterious, where you can be in a place with a Rasika Bhakta without receiving his mercy somehow, due to a bad attitude. But you're still there, and you can one day receive and become like a bee. But certain, due to their previous lives, they come because they're searching for honey. They're ready to let go of everything, everything, because they're attracted. This is the symptom of the advancement from previous lives. That means that we receive the good association where we are attracted by the good association. But the danger is that the more devotees advanced, the more you offend him, the less you have a good attitude, and the less it delays, the more it delays the fact that you become attracted. But the point is, without having the association with pure devotees, you cannot have attraction for rasa and develop a real taste for holy name. You will simply stay on a level of fighting with yourself and to engage yourself according to your possibility. You wander through the mind. There are platforms that are difficult. We have no choice. We must have this trust and this connection within with the Rasika Bhaktas. And through this surrender, through this favorable attitude, at one point we receive. It is gradual. It is just like a medicine. According to our previous lives, we're more covered or not with lust.
c'est des couches.
There are
Cetto
coverings.
c'est des couches.
Cetto Paramajana. So they are coverings.
Par l'association,
So with association, gradual association, it can take years and years and years. But after some time, when FX is
ce peuple
coming, we leave this platform
de vouloir quelque chose en ce monde,
of wanting to want something in this world,
de se défendre,
of defending ourselves,
d'avoir des conceptions d'amis et
of having conceptions of friends and enemies.
par le goût spirituel.
And through spiritual taste, we open ourselves to an eternal consciousness.
Et là,
And there,
par la grâce,
when through the grace of the Vaishnava and Srila Prabhupada,
on a une aperçu
we
de la
have
réalité,
a witness, a glance of our eternity,
alors on revient plus en arrière.
then we don't go backward.
C'est parti.
We're
Le seul but,
we're going. Our only goal
c'est de devenir un associé éternel.
is to become an eternal associate of the Lord. But before now,
Parce que notre
Because-
conscience ne permet pas.
our consciousness does not allow us.
Même si on nous dit,
Even if we are told,
tu es telle personne,
you're such person in the spiritual world, you cannot take it.
vous ne pouvez pas accepter.
You cannot accept your reality.
C'est pourquoi certains dévots-
That is why certain devotees, they want to know who they are.
Mais s'ils savent même
But if they
à un
know,
moment qui n'est pas favorable,
At a moment that is not favorable, it will not be sufficient to allow them to realize it's not possible.
on doit avoir
We must have
vous avez pas vu ça.
the mercy of the sadhu.
Parce que si vous avez-
Because if you have the mercy of the sadhu,
même si vous avez
even
qui vous êtes, ça apparaît.
if he reveals you who you are, it appears. Even if he doesn't, it
Alors que
appears.
si vous dites qui
Whereas
vous
if he
êtes,
tells you who you are
et que vous n'avez pas la bonne
and you don't have the good attitude,
ça se révèle pas.
it doesn't reveal itself.
C'est pas possible.
It's not possible.
C'est pourquoi
So that's why
tout est basé
everything is based
sur l'attitude.
on the attitude and association.
Il y a ces deux choses,
When these two things are there,
on obtient tout.
we obtain
On
everything.
devient comme une
We become like a bee.
Une mouche,
A
ça voit ça
fly
voit les défauts des autres.
always sees the faults in others.
C'est toujours en guerre.
It's always in war.
Une abeille,
A bee,
ça va juste faire le nectar.
he only goes through towards the nectar.
Donc, arrivé à un certain niveau,
So when we arrive at a certain level, when it starts at
on
Ruchi,
délaisse les mauvaises choses.
we let go of the bad
On
things
cherche simplement
and we search simply
la nourriture qui nous permet
for the food that allows us to progress.
Avant, c'est pas possible.
Before it is not
On est
possible.
obligé de s'attarder
We're obliged to delay again and again on the faults of others,
sur notre concupiscence,
on our lust, on our anger, etc.
Quand, en
But
fait,
when in
quand
fact
l'étape vient,
taste comes,
on ne peut pas vivre sans.
we cannot live without it.
Donc, on est obligé de
So
s'alimenter.
we are obliged to nourish.
On est obligé
We are obliged to nourish
d'association.
the good association, search
Qui est vital.
for what is vital for
Mais
us.
avant, non.
But before now,
On peut même être notre propre
we can be even our own enemy
acceptant
by accepting
une
even
mauvaise association
a bad association
en pensant que c'est une bonne.
by thinking it is a good, because we cannot discriminate
Tant qu'on n'est pas
as long as we are not at a certain spiritual level what is good and bad for us.
Parce qu'arriver
Because when we
au
arrive
niveau de Ruchi,
on the level of
le
Ruchi,
goût
it is taste
qui nous ouvre la route.
that opens the door.
Complètement différent.
It's completely different. It is taste, in
On
fact.
devient
We
attracté.
become attracted.
Alors qu'à un niveau
Whereas at
inférieur,
an inferior level,
c'est notre condition
it is our conditioning,
qui est notre contrôleur.
which is our controller.
C'est pourquoi,
That is
dans
why,
un mouvement,
in a movement,
comme par exemple celui-là,
like for example the one of Srila Prabhupada,
on base plutôt
we base rather,
que c'est des mouvements de masse
because they're like mass movements
sur la prédication,
about preaching,
sur
about
enseigner des bases spirituelles.
teaching spiritual
La
foundation
plupart des dévots sont
basics, because most devotees are not
Mais
qualified.
ça veut pas dire
But that doesn't mean that we must not, that Prabhupada does not do something for the more qualified devotees,
Mais c'est plus rare.
but it is more rare.
Donc il faut,
So we need both.
il faut donner la
We need to give the possibility to nourish it,
l'abeille.
to nourish the bee.
Parce que si elle n'a pas le miel,
Because if the bee doesn't have the honey,
elle peut s'essouffler.
then the bee can lose its breath and then go backward.
C'est très important.
It's really important.
C'est pourquoi il faut les deux.
That is why we need both.
Quand Srila Prabhupada
When Srila Prabhupada he said boiling the milk,
c'est l'abeille.
it is the bee,
Mais c'est difficile à
but
comprendre.
it's difficult to
Si on n'est
understand.
pas devenu une abeille,
If we did not become a bee, how can we understand
ce que veut dire le lait faire bouillir le lait.
what boiling the milk means?
Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire?
What does that mean?
Ça veut dire
That means to
devenir
become
à l'intérieur de nous
within ourselves
conscient
conscious
de ce que l'Acharya a donné.
of what the Acharya gave,
Et pas simplement
and not simply
juste rester
just staying
sur le plan
on the plane
des activités qu'il nous a données.
of where the activities that He has given us will purify us and develop taste.
Il faut
We need to
ce
understand
qu'il est venu donner.
what He came to give and accept it.
Donc tout ça, c'est
So
une
all of
grande
this,
science.
it is a great science,
Et il en faut pour tout le monde.
and it has to be for everyone,
Mais la majorité,
but the majority,
naturellement,
naturally,
c'est d'engager les tendances
is to engage the tendencies
et de se battre
and to fight
avec nos problèmes,
with our problems,
faire de la politique,
make politics,
vouloir une position.
wanting a position,
Mais celui qui
But the
dépasse
one
ces choses-là,
who surpasses all these
il a
things.
aussi besoin d'un endroit
He also needs a place
où il peut
where one can
savourer le Saint,
relish the holy name,
méditer
meditate
sous les doux lilas de Krishna.
on the sweet lilas of Krishna.
Lui, il a besoin de cette place-là.
He needs that place.
Donc tout doit exister.
So everything must
C'est
exist.
pourquoi cette
That is why this
avec
diversity,
le temps apparaîtra.
with time, it will appear.
On ne peut pas l'empêcher.
We cannot stop
Parce
it
que celui qui est devenu la
because the one who became a bee,
il a besoin de plus.
he needs more.
Il a besoin d'une
He
kata
needs
particulière,
a particular kata,
des gloires de Krishna d'une manière particulière.
the glories of Krishna, but in a special way.
Il n'est plus comme tout le monde.
He's not like everybody else.
Parce que quand il lit,
Because when he reads,
ça se révèle.
it reveals itself.
Et il atteint un
And one attains a immeasurable happiness.
Alors que le même dévot,
Because the same devotee, when he would read, he tastes nothing.
et ça va même être
And it will even be displeasing,
il va se dire, mais j'y arriverai jamais.
unpleasant, because he will say, I will never be able to make it.
Ça le décourage.
It discourages us one.
Donc,
So,
tout le monde
everyone
va dans sa place
must,
évoluer.
in his own place, evolve.
Mais celui qui est très néophyte,
But the one who is very
quand
neophyte,
quelqu'un essaie
when
d'évoluer,
someone tries to evolve,
il va se faire attaquer.
he will attack him.
Il est envieux.
The other is envious.
Regarde,
Look,
il pense qu'il est avancé.
he thinks he is advanced.
Il est un Prakrita Samaja.
He is a Prakrita Sahajya.
Ça ne peut pas être autrement.
It cannot be any other way.
Parce qu'à un niveau inférieur,
Because at the inferior level,
à un niveau inférieur, l'envie est là.
envy is there.
Alors qu'à un niveau inférieur,
Whereas at a superior level,
il y a la compassion.
there's compassion.
Cette personne critique,
This person
c'est
criticizes.
normal.
It's normal.
Il ne peut pas comprendre.
One cannot understand.
Mais l'abeille
But the
ne
bee
peut pas s'arrêter sur la critique.
cannot stop on the critic.
Elle est obligée d'aller vers le miel.
It is obliged to go towards the honey.
Vous comprenez?
You understand?
Et il y a plein de niveaux.
And there are many levels.
Au début,
At the beginning,
si on commence à
even if we
devenir
start
une abeille,
to become a little bee, it's not powerful
on
enough,
se retourne pour
and
aller
we
vers
turn back to go towards the
et on perd cette
attacking.
capacité. On
And then we
perd.
lose this capacity and we become unhappy.
Et on dit, je me ferai jamais plus avoir.
And we say, I'll never,
On essaye de,
we think I will never be caught again. And we try to become a bee again,
de réparer notre mauvaise attitude.
to repair a bad attitude.
Et là, quand ça revient,
And then when it comes back,
on peut se refaire avoir, mais
we can,
graduellement,
get deceived again, but gradually, we liberate ourselves
de toute conception de
from all conception of defending. I'm not part of this world. They can think whatever they want from me. They can say whatever they want. It does not touch me anymore. And Krishna explains that in Bhagavad Gita. The one who attained that level, everything that I will hear before and after,
Ça ne touche plus.
it does not touch him anymore. When this knowledge comes to pick one up, it's finished.
C'est ça qu'il faut.
This is where we need
C'est
to
le
go.
minimum.
This is the minimum.
C'est le minimum.
It is the minimum.
Sans même pas sûr
Otherwise,
de faire des votes tout ça.
We're not even certain to stay a devotee all our
Même
life.
pas sûr.
It's not even sure.
La plateforme d'avant,
Because the platform before,
il n'y a pas la foi,
there's no faith,
il n'y a pas l'expérience.
there's no experience.
On vit sur un acquis.
We live on a spiritual acquisition that allows us to maintain ourselves. But if we make too many offenses at one point, even what we acquired is we cannot connect to it anymore, and then the material desires, they will come back again. So we have to be careful. It's a whole science.
Merci.
Thank you very much.